Everybody, welcome Taylor.
Alright. So you guys know how life be lifing seems like something that we've always said or always understood. Like everybody gets what you mean when you say that. It feels like we've had that. It feels like we've had that terminology forever, or we needed it forever. And so my story is really about how life be lifing, but God uses those moments that we don't feel good, we feel restricted, we feel like the walls are closing in on us, and how they're purposeful and they can be used to better us, to become who we were meant to be, and to better the world in the way that we were meant to do it. So my story begins as an anxious teenager raised in a loving but chaotic family of all girls. My mom was a single mom. She raised 3 daughters. I was right in the middle, and I feel like my sibling role really encapsulates the anxiety that I felt, just being in the middle and like closed in, and a lot of times I just felt like I could not stretch or like breathe outside of my own mind and my experience. And so when I was about 13, I experienced my first anxiety attack. And I remember just that feeling like walls closing in, and it's like dark in your mind and dark in the world, and you're trying really hard to distract yourself or think about something else or anything but think about the thing that's causing you anxiety, or just the feeling that you're feeling, but it's like you can't. I don't know if I've ever had an anxiety anything before, but it's not a good time, especially as a 13-year-old. And so my mom, lovingly, well-meaningly, nurse that she was, hardworking nurse that she was, suggested that I take this little green pill. It was really tiny, and that it would help me with my anxiety. And I just remember being like, if I swallow that pill, I feel like I'm accepting that this is just how life is going to be. And anxiety is something that I'm going to have with me my whole life, and there's nothing I can do about it. And I just started thinking from a really young age about the people in my life and people that I experienced, and the mental anguish that we often go through, and how we take pills, and the physical issues that people in my family and around me experience, and the procedures, and just the way I was brought up to know God and love God, and God loves us, and we're like supposed to be happy and healthy and free, was not, the math wasn't mathing with what I was seeing. And so I was like, I'm not going to take that pill. I'm about to figure this out. And so I became really discovery oriented and exploratory around how I was going to take care of my mind and my body and my spirit for the rest of my life. And I was like, what y'all are doing is not going to work for me. And so I started going to the Inglewood Y with my mom. She was a triathlete, so she was always working out and running and stuff. And I never wanted to run with her, but I decided I was going to try running with her. And I remember just running and lifting weights and taking my first yoga class. And I was just trying stuff. And I noticed that when I moved my body, it felt like I was pushing the walls out, right? Like I was expressing, or like just this energy was able to flow more freely that had previously left me feeling so constricted. And throughout, my teenage years, life continued to life. When I lost my grandmother at 16, I remember having like a lot of anxiety around that time, and going deeper in my practices and adding to the practices. So I started meditating and praying and journaling and all kinds of stuff, just to take care of myself and try to fill myself up, fill my cup up, so that no matter how much life lifed, I was operating in overflow rather than, at a deficit. And so it worked, y'all. I've never taken an anxiety pill in my life. And I know that we all experience anxiety on different levels. And so this is not to say that some people don't need anxiety medication, but I knew that that wasn't what I needed. I needed to figure out what was really going on and just kind of express some energy. So I became really passionate about sharing practices that helped me with other people, because again, I saw so many people struggling with the same things, and then doing like pills, procedures, and all kinds of stuff to cover up the issue or the symptoms, but not get to the root cause. And so when I was 19, I decided that I wanted to become a fitness instructor and a personal trainer so that I could help people with one thing I knew pretty much worked for everybody is moving your body. And so I moved to Australia and I started studying fitness and studying all kinds of other holistic healing modalities and different religions and spiritualities and just trying to figure out how I could continue to support myself and support others who were navigating physical and mental health challenges. And then I moved back home, and in 2020, I decided I was going to start a business, and I was going to help people through the wellness practices that I had learned that had helped me. And so I started doing group classes and some corporate wellness and working with people returning to the workforce after COVID and all kinds of amazing things that I felt like I started to see around that time that like the anxiety and everything that had happened to me as a teenager that I experienced was purposeful, because if I didn't experience that, I wouldn't be able to help the people that I was now meeting who were going through that, right? And then I realized too that there was immense privilege that I had to be able to go to the Inglewood Y and take a yoga class. And I noticed that there were parts of the community that didn't have access to practices that really helped me. So as I was growing my business, I started teaching free classes at Gym City Market, Gym City Market, and then at Riverscape, and just areas where I didn't see a lot of opportunities for people to take care of themselves. And maybe they had never seen somebody like take a deep breath as a way to calm themselves down, right? Because I didn't see that growing up. And so there was a man named Dan Loughborough who, like me, had experienced some chaos in his life, and he had learned some practices that helped him on his journey, and he started a nonprofit called Spectrum New Beginnings so that he could teach the things that helped him to others. But he's a really busy person, and so he was kind of like, I'm not really using this to the ability that it could be used to really make a difference. And so he invited me to be a yoga instructor, like with him in the nonprofit. And then in 2023, in the summer, I remember I was doing a lot of stuff in the community, getting more involved and really getting more passionate about sharing these practices in areas where people wouldn't normally have access to it. And one day, Dan said, Taylor, you can just take the nonprofit. Like, do what you want with it. I know that you're going to use it for God's good and that you're going to make a difference, and that is the only payment that I need to receive in exchange. And I was not super surprised because he had been kind of planting seeds over time, but I just felt like this was meant to happen. This is literally like what everything from the chaos, the anxiety, learning the practices, going to the Y, running with my mom, saying no to the little green pill, and starting my own business and all of the things that I learned through that, like it was all God preparing me for taking over this organization so that I could really impact the community on a deeper level. And so I took over. I never knew anything about nonprofits or a lot of anything other than I knew how to start a business and I knew how to run a business. Nonprofits are really just businesses with a different tax classification. So I figured it out, and God has supported me along this journey. We never had any grant funding, or there wasn't like a board or anything before I took over, and it has nothing to do with me and everything to do with God and the way that He allowed me to learn through my experience. When life was lifing, there was always a lesson and something that a seed that He was planting, a way that He was preparing me for this journey. And it has been amazing. We've been funded. We have a board. We have contracts, and we're making a difference in people's lives in a very tangible way. And I'm so thankful for the anxiety and the chaos and my desire to figure out something different than what I was seeing around me. And I just know that life's for a reason, and we have to trust that in those moments when we feel closed in and there's no way out, there is purpose in those moments. So allow your life to laugh.